Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm back. I'm just waiting for John to get up. Waiting for John to get up in place so he can help me with the slides. Hope everybody's enjoying your breakfast. Let's give a big shout out to the kitchen crew again. Thank you to them for helping out. Glenn and his team right here. Glenn is looking for a replacement, so anybody out there that wants to come join us in the kitchen to lead us and cook, feel free. Looking for volunteers. Tim Buckham, Mike Baker, Tom Hayes. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. We're going to start with today. Just thank you. We're going to go into some slides. We had our business meeting on Thursday night. Just kind of get a revamp of all what's going on with the committees. Hearts and Hammers is an organization that's within the church. I know we've been busy the last month or two. We have been helping out folks at the Caring Place, which is a community group here in downtown Cary that helps with housing, and they give families an opportunity to get settled in a house, help them learn with budgeting and being able to have a home. I know Mike and his volunteer team has been over there helping to do kind of some minor repairs, and so we've kind of looped onto them. It's a great organization. So we're proud of still being able to offer that. If anybody individually has a small project they want to help out with their house, obviously we can go to the church website. You can fill out an application. Like I said, we have a group of volunteers. Mike can come out and take a gander and see what it's all about and see how much work is involved. So, that's a nice organization. Veterans History Project is ongoing. I know that I want to thank Jim Johnson for all his input and research that he's done over the past few years. He's very passionate about that, just looking up history of veterans that are involved here from First Cary ever since church was founded. He's going to be continuing some research this coming year just to kind of get some updated records on some families. Again, I want to note that if you have an immediate family member, maybe even like an uncle or grandfather, we do that supplement every year for the Call to Serve booklet. Please reach out and email Jim. I know there was a couple of us that may have a grandfather that served in World War II. Just because they don't go to the church, they are a family member. And if you'd like to get some kind of recognition and have a little bit of a story, if there's a photo, we'd love to have that information. So it's not just everybody that's just tied directly as a member of First Cary, but it's our extended family as well. So, but thank you, Jim, for what you do on that. Our next business meeting is we always have it the Thursday before the breakfast. We're calling it the second Saturday breakfast program. Is what we're leaning towards. It's not necessarily, yes, we're United Methodist Men, we're hosting it, but we're trying to open it up to all families. We want to have a great group. Hopefully look forward to having some wonderful programs. Our business meeting is on Thursday. Before that, more than welcome to have anybody come join us, see what's going on with the topics and the different ministries that we support through United Methodist Men. That's on February 8th. Our next program, we're proud to have the Boy Scouts who's going to give us a little program update on what's going on with the scouting community. Troop 200 and Pack 200, we're celebrating. Because my son Preston's in Boy Scouts with Troop, so they just got their 75th year patch. So 75 years we've been here at First Cary, so that's a great accomplishment just to have the Boy Scouts. The Pack obviously is right behind that too, but it's a great program both for Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and we're proud to have that partnership here within the organization. There's Girl Scouts too. I'm not trying to, it's great to have both programs. We have Brownies and Girl Scouts, but February's program will be led by the Boy Scouts, so we're hoping to look forward to them being here. March, I don't think that's right. April, March is still to be determined. I'm sorry I went by really slow on that, but really fast, but we're going to come back to March. April is written. We're going to have Michael Walden. He's a professor at NC State of Economic Consulting, so we're looking forward to his program for April. I believe that's it. I want to go back real quick before I call Crystal up for the devotion. I did want to mention, there wasn't a slide for Habitat, but I talked to Mike Bailey. We're heavily involved as a First Cary Coalition with our church with the Habitat. We just finished up, I think there was 7 houses that got finished up in the fall over at the new location, which is on Old Pool Road in Raleigh. I was talking to Mike. They're having a meeting here in 2 weeks. I think it's coming up in the 20th. We're going to start some more builds, and I think they're projecting to start a new build in February that our church will be involved with. He was telling me that whole spot, that whole lot location over there, I think is, the plan is to put 140 houses and then 65 condos. So that whole complex area over there on Old Pool Road, so I think that's just fantastic. That's fabulous. That habitat, that is just a great area, and just to be able to continue to be involved with that from First Carry, with to be able to provide needed housing for those that are in need. So thank you for that, and thank you, Mike, for leading the charge on that. So at this time, I'm going to call up our wonderful Crystal, Miss Crystal Kepley. She's going to come up and give us a devotion, and then we'll lead into our program. Thanks, Crystal.
Good morning, y'all. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So my husband grew up in the church and was very active. And as a matter of fact, we met at a mission trip when we were in 11th grade. But he was never really much of a church goer and certainly not a real Bible reader by any means. But in spite of that, in 2003, he had a little New Testament with him when he was a Bradley gunner rolling into the invasion of Baghdad. And he told me, years after that, he said, you cannot make it through a war and not believe that there is a God. And when he said that to me, I very naively, I think at the time, I assumed that what he meant was that if you make it out alive from a war, that you can't not believe in God. That if you are in a situation where you are praying so fervently for your life amidst all kinds of terrible things happening, and then you emerge in one piece, that of course you would believe your prayers are answered. But in the years after that, I have thought about it a lot, that he said that you can't make it through a war and not believe there is a God. And I've come to understand that he meant a lot more by that, and I think even more than maybe he realized when he said it. That the reason I think that you can't make it through a war and not believe there is God is because that is where God is. Because God is with us in suffering. That God is at the very heart of all the trauma and tragedies of the world. That God is not a fair weather fella. He's not disconnected from us. God doesn't hang out in faraway places or just rest with those people who call themselves blessed. That God goes and seeks out those who are in the midst of suffering. In fact, Cardinal Cherney said this: being close to his people, to his children who suffer, is the way that God has chosen to enter into the history of the world, even at the cost of ending up on a cross. So for that reason, because of trouble and war and strife and pain and all of the horrors of the world that we live in, those things, they rarely drive people away from God. They drive people to God, because that's where hope is. During the reign of King Hezekiah, this is about 3,000 years ago, the Assyrians were laying siege to the city of Jerusalem. And Judah had already fallen. King Hezekiah and his people are trying to figure out what they're going to do as these 200,000 troops are literally like rattling their gates. And in the midst of that, the psalmist wrote this song for the people to sing. So you know it as Psalm 46, that says, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. Like the song to sing as the gates are being rattled. Like, that is a picture of war in all times and places. And so when we ask, like, where is God in that? Like, that is where God is. God is there in war, just as God is here with us. Because God mourns those who are lost in conflict, and God gives courage to those who are carrying their comrades, who are fleeing their homes, who are protecting the innocent. And God gives wisdom to those who seek to end fighting. God does not simply observe the suffering of the world as an indifferent bystander, because God chooses to be close to us and open a way where there is none. And as is characteristic of God, he calls all of us to do the same thing. So in our everyday lives, we are also called to be with those who are suffering. And so today, I am so honored to be a part of all of us, honoring those people among us that have heard God's call, not just to their country, but also to their fellow human, to aid where there is suffering. So thank you for the USO and for all of you who have served in the armed services.
Thanks, Crystal. Okay, at this time, I'm going to, before we introduce Miss Heather, I'm going to call up EJ and Denny, and then they can bring up Miss Heather to the podium. And I'm going to turn it over to EJ. But I want to thank EJ and Denny for, they are on our golf committee. As you all know, that our biggest fundraiser that we do within the church to raise funds to be able to give out the mission work and support is our Tee Up for Charities golf tournament, and we have that in September of every year. And we've been very fortunate to have it in McGregor, Downs Country Club. And just in the years, we've always had the support of any of the proceeds that we do and we bring in. We share that with USO. So I want to bring this up to EJ and Denny and let them call up Heather, and we appreciate you guys being part of that. So thank you very much.
I had the opportunity of meeting the gentleman that sells these. Basically, it's a non-for-profit organization that helps military men and women transitioning from the military and wanting to open up their own business. So basically what they do is give them the entrepreneur skills in order to make that business successful, and also advise them accordingly as they move on. So if you're interested, I'll give Jim the email address, and you can look them up. Now, this is their first edition. I'm not here to sell shoes, but this is the first edition. They have other ones. All that money goes to, again, helping establish a curriculum and affording these individuals an opportunity to be educated on how to start up their own business so they become independent. All right, with that in mind, I have this very quickly to give you some insight how this all evolved. I was looking for something to frame time, and I went back, and in 1992, the first phone bag was introduced. I had one. The radius of communication was maybe 2 miles if you were close to a cell's tower. Over time and through technology, it has evolved to the point where, A, I can communicate with somebody halfway across the world. If I'm lost, I can dial in a satellite and get directions to my final destination, emails, banking, everything else. The functions are unlimited. Well, that was 1992. In 1993, there were a group of men from First United Methodist men that saw a significant need out there. And the question is, how do we address this need? And secondly, how do we finance it? So they came up with the concept of a golf tournament to raise money. And this is 30 years ago. We're going to have our 30th anniversary this coming September. All right, 30 years ago. In 1973, approximately 30 years ago, they came up with this concept. They developed a golf tournament, First United Methodist Men's Golf Tournament, to raise money to help those out, that have a distinct need in our community. Well, Jim Smith and I took over co-chairman about 12 years ago. And as we continued on with this process, it came to the point where I said, Jim, we're putting in a lot of time. We're getting very little return on investment. All right? We need to broaden our scope because we went out and tried to solicit money from corporate America, and corporate America will not give to church institutions. So that cut us off from a large market. So Bob Inglis and I were sitting down one day, and Bob was affiliated with the USO. He volunteered there. And I said, Bob, we've got to come up with some idea in order to penetrate or breach these corporate America, because we need greater finances. So we kicked around the idea, and I said, you're associated with the USO. That's a nonprofit organization. The only way they subsist is through donations and monies which they raise. So why don't we partner with them? Well, when we partnered with them about 10 years ago, our profitability started to increase. And today, in the last couple of years, we've been bringing in over $30,000. So that partnership has just blossomed. And it's a pleasure and an honor to work with the USO. They do, myself being a veteran and flying over to Southeast Asia, I took advantage of their facilities there. It's home away from home. It gives you a opportunity to decompress, get rid of those anxieties and apprehensions as you move on to your next duty assignment. Heather's going to cover that. Rob covered what First United Methodist Men do. This is the Tee-Up. We changed the name to Tee-Up for Charities. This is the largest source of revenue for them. Now, what we do is we share the net profits 50-50. And at this time, first of all, I want to recognize this man. Jim Smith and I had worked on this for a number of years. God bless his soul. He passed away this past year. Then he's my co-chair. He's our co-chair. But he is really the heart, the soul of this organization. We sit here as chairman, you're a figurehead. This is the worker bee. He's my COO, CFO, he's my IT man, he's my marketing man. And I tell you, without him, it wouldn't, this Tee-Up for Charities event, which is a success every year, would not happen. So at this time, I'd like to bring Heather up. And Heather Rossi I've had the pleasure of working with this young lady for the past 3 years. She is also a veteran. She had a number of years with the Air Force, yes. Correct? Correct. So Heather, I'd like to present this check for $6,000 and change over there. And I want to thank you very much. Denny, get over here. And I look for our relationship to continue down through the years, okay? You're quite welcome.
Certainly been a pleasure.
All right, thank you very much. My turn? Okay. Well, let me do. I'd like to introduce you to Heather Rossi. I know her another kid, but she is the center manager at RDU for the USO. So Heather, it's all yours.
Thank you.
This is my second year doing the golf tournament with EJ and the team over here, and honestly, it could not have been a better experience. You all have been amazing to work with and such wonderful supporters of the USO, so I really do appreciate that. With that, my name is Heather. I am an Air Force veteran. I am the daughter of a Vietnam veteran. My dad served in the Army and then served in the Army National Guard in Texas for 20 years. I was a military spouse. I am raising 3 very bratty military children. They are delightful and wonderful, all teenagery self of them, which means that I've pretty much lived the entire breadth of the military experience, and I know very little about anybody else's military experience. And I think that's one of the things that I find is that everybody has their own individual experience, love, sometimes not love, for how their military career was. And my goal in the USO is to bring all of them together and hopefully give them a place where they feel a little less alone. When EJ talks about having traveled to Vietnam and that the USO was kind of a place where he felt the most comfortable and welcomed, that is the thing that I want people to say 20, 30, 50 years from now about the RDU Center, about our Seymour Johnson Center, about any place that we've shown up. So by the numbers, last year worldwide we served over 10 million people. We had 10 million individuals walk through at some point through our doors or attend one of our programs. Yes, there are repeats, but 10 million times people walked through our doors worldwide. We're pretty much everywhere now, and if we're not permanently there, we can get there. We've built up massive mobile units in all of the continents where we are. Great one is in Europe, where we have been traveling all over trying to serve folks who are in the further outposts and kind of set up in smaller groups. We show up with, as always, hot coffee, snacks, a lot of times hot showers, sometimes the ability to connect with their families because they don't have as good an infrastructure out there to be able to call home. So our goal is that when we show up, everybody is excited. So what does that look like in North Carolina? We've got 6 permanent locations. We did close down in Albert Ellis Airport, but that's okay because we've got Camp Lejeune now, and they are just crushing it serving the Marines out there. I would say that probably the best part about this is that while these are our permanent centers, we're set up to serve like this. So when I say I'm part of the triangle, really what I mean is all those yellow counties. I serve all of those. So I will be out at Camp Butner next year during their summer training so that we can be set up. We're going to go out and do kind of little pop-up shops. There is no cell service on Camp Butner. They are an hour and a half from RDU and might as well be in the middle of nowhere because their communication is limited, to say the least. So we're all over the coastal area, traveling up to all of those little Coast Guard stations that kind of sit along the coast. And oftentimes those are less than 30 people at each of those Coast Guard stations. And my colleague Julie, who covers all of the green, you can see she's quite busy with pretty much half the state. And there's some pretty big armories out that way for the National Guard, up in Hickory and even way out on the tip out in those furthest counties. We've got actually quite a large Guard population out there. So what's the best part? I love pictures, especially pictures of smiling, happy people. A lot of our donations allow us to do some really great things. So last year at Seymour Johnson, we served 37,000 people walked through those doors. Seymour Johnson has 5,000 people active duty on base. We had 37,000 times that we served somebody at Seymour Johnson. So that means that there is a desperate need out there for folks to come and show up and create that community, and we have really filled that niche out there. We work with all of the community partners, MWR and all of those folks, but a lot of times people are like, I don't want to go see the military people, but the USO is super fun, so we're able to partner up with them. This year we brought them Tots and Talks, so twice a week we do a preschool parent program, and they come out and enjoy and get to play. They do an activity. It's super short, but the base, and together with some partners, we partnered up and created a whole sensory touch room for them, which has been really fantastic. On average, folks come back at least 3 times to that center. At RDU, we served, I think, 45,000 was the final number, right around there. For the first time, I am no longer saying it's been our best year since COVID, and I'm just saying it's been our best year. It's been our best year. We have strong volunteers. We're open from 7 to 11, and on average, we serve about 200 Marines transiting either East Coast to West Coast or West Coast back to the East for training. Most of those guys don't have a whole lot of time, and they're coming in by bus and then trying to find their way in the airport, so we help them do that. We send them on with their own little snacks and opportunities. We started a weekly bingo game for them, for those that have a long layover, and you would think that bingo wouldn't be really popular with a bunch of 19-year-olds. They love it, and they are so excited to win Squishmallows. And I had the realization that of course they are, because I have an 18-year-old and he's so excited about the Squishmallow that he has. So it turns out I have now transitioned from them feeling like they were my peers to being like, ugh, you're my children now. It's a rough go, I know. But none of this is possible without our partners. You guys make the miracles happen. This year with the golf tournament, but also when we were looking at needing pizzas for our holiday in the hall party, the Methodist men really came through and provided us with gift cards that we were able to go and buy the pizzas and create a really wonderful experience. Every person who comes to that, we serve 150 kids for holiday in the hall and have a wait list twice as long probably. And every single person who comes through is just blown away by how magical we're able to make it. And we're able to do that because other people come in and join us. They help us do with crafts. They help us create toys. They help us have food. And when they come in, everybody leaves with like all of this stuff in bags. And I just love seeing how happy all of those families are and that we made magic happen. And we're able to do the same out at Seymour Johnson. I served 14 unit parties this year between the end of November and the end of December. So, right, it's a lot of weekends. And I couldn't do it without my volunteers. They show up day in, day out. Anytime I call and ask, there's somebody there who's willing to help me out. We have over 200 here in the Triangle area that show up at my centers, in my other activities. Every time I'm like, hey, I have this idea, they're like, we could do that. Yes. That's great, because I can't. I just came up with the idea. And they have been just really fantastic about doing that. I know a lot of times people are hesitant about giving to a big organization, right? Like, the USO is big. We cover the whole world. And we always want our money to be able to see what our money does locally. For me, the most important part of my job now is that I know when I put 600 airmen on a plane in April, when they get to their next location, there is somebody like me waiting. But I know they also can't raise any money out there. They are in the middle of nowhere. I know where they're going, but it's not been released yet. And they're not going to luxury locations or anything else. They're going to be kind of out there. And what I love knowing is that when they get there, they'll be taken care of. And that's partly because I'm able to bring partners in who believe in our mission worldwide. And for that, I am so grateful to this church, to the Methodist men for their continued partnership and support of us, for all of you individuals, for several of my volunteers who are here who show up. All of that makes it possible for us to be there. and to be there consistently for the service members and their families. How can you help? Volunteer. You can also follow us on Facebook, which actually helps. You can share about our mission. We have a brand room that gives all of the details about all the amazing work we do. If you're ever coming to the airport and you're like, hey, I'd like to drop something off, those are our top 5. They love chips and they love gummy snacks because they're 19. So the fruit gummies that you send with your toddler, they also really love them. But we're always happy to help and grateful for all of the support you all give us. That's all I have, folks. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I appreciate everybody coming. Thank you. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. I'm going to see if Miss Crystal would mind just, if you would mind just coming up and closing us and out in a wonderful prayer. And see you guys hopefully tomorrow.
All right, let's pray. Dear God, we thank you that you are a God that comes to us, that is with us in our darkest places, that you come to bring light and love and peace and your contentment. God, we pray that you would protect our armed service members, that you would bring peace to their families, that you would give wisdom to those who make decisions, and that you would continue to help those folks like Heather in the USO that do so much to help all of us. Lord, we pray most especially for an end to war, for an end to strife and conflict, so that it may be on earth as it is in heaven. And we pray these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you for doing that. And I know we're going to help clean up. But on the table, and I apologize, there is a white bowl. And since Heather's here, if anybody, we'd all be willing, but our love offering, we always do a love offering after our breakfast for the guest speaker, and obviously today's love offering, we'd like to be able to donate back to the USO. So if you're willing, but that's what the white bowls are for. We also, you can do it online through our website, but we really, really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. And as far as cleaning up, we're gonna, if anybody can stay, we'd love to have some help just wiping down the tables, and we'll stack the chairs in 10. And we'll put those away. But we appreciate it. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Thank you.